Today I'm going to read you a story called Jack's Garden, and I thought I would show you a little bit of my garden. This is our chicken coop, and inside there are a few chicken eggs. There's a little chicken coming out. Here is a garden bed I planted kale. It's starting to come up. Here are some more things that we planted in the garden. We put this screen over it so that the cats wouldn't dig in it. And over here you can even see our onions are starting to come up. And I have kale and spinach and a few other things planted in here too. Now, got my little watering can and my picnic table. And here is our kindergarten reading book. We are ready for the story, Jack's Garden. Jack's Garden by Henry Cole. Ooh, it's windy out here in my garden. This is the garden that Jack planted. You can see on the edge a trowel, a rake, a hose on the bottom, and a watering can. And on the far right, there's a hoe. And you can see in Jack's hand a shovel. Above the picture is a pair of pruning shears and a garden claw. This is the soil that made up the garden that Jack planted. And looking at what grows in the soil, you can see all sorts of little creatures, starting on the top with earthworms, slug, a fly pupa, that's like a baby fly, beetle larva, slug eggs, moth larva. And now if we look over on the side, right here we have cicada larva, a cicada, that's a kind of bug, and a ground beetle. These are the seeds that fell on the soil that made up the garden that Jack planted. And look at all the different kinds of seeds Jack has. He has lupin seeds, dianthus seeds, hollyhock seeds, sunflower seeds, and over on the side, milkweed seeds, poppy seeds, and phlox seeds. Every seed has its own different look. See how the milkweed seeds have those little fluffy hairy things on them? And the sunflower seeds look just like the sunflower seeds you might eat. This is the rain that wet the seeds that fell on the soil that made up the garden that Jack planted. And if you look on the side, you can see the rain gauge here. That's a tool that's used to measure how many inches it rains. And up here on the top are the clouds. These are called cumulonimbus clouds. They're the kind of clouds that happen before a storm. And there are cumulus clouds, stratus clouds. Those are those long, thin clouds that go across the sky. Cirrus clouds and cirrocumulus clouds. Look at all that rain coming down on Jack's garden. You might not be able to tell in this video, but it is just starting to rain outside right now in my garden too. These are the seedlings that sprouted with the rain that wet the seeds that fell on the soil that made up the garden that Jack planted. And here are the parts of the seedling. So here is a little seedling and it says stem. Down here are the roots and the seed leaves. These are adult leaves starting to grow on this seedling. And some more little creatures that live in the garden, like the centipede here, the millipede. Centipede means animal of 1,000 legs, and millipede means animal of 1,000,000 legs. I don't think they really have 1,000,000 legs, but they kind of look like they might. This is a sow bug, and this is a germinating seed. That's when the seed is little, it's just a seed, and then as it germinates, it gets a little tiny root coming off of it, and then a root on one side and a sprout on the other side. The roots start to branch out and the sprout gets a little bigger. And up here in the garden is a robin pulling a worm from the ground. These are the plants that grew from the seedlings that sprouted with the rain, that wet the seeds, that fell on the soil, that made up the garden that Jack planted. And here the plants are. Wait a second, I see some bugs in these plants. There's a swallowtail larva, a goldenrod spider, an Argiope spider. This plant is called bee balm. Wonder if it keeps the bees away. This is called allium. And this is called hollyhock. We have hollyhocks in my garden. They get pretty flowers on them. This is called spiderwort here. And there's a little praying mantis hiding in that spiderwort. Then we have columbine. I have columbines in my garden too, and they're very pretty. They get all different colors of flowers. And here's milkweed. And way up here in the corner around the side is a garter snake. Garter snakes like to slither around on the ground. Maybe some of you have caught some. Sometimes you have to be really gentle with them because they can get hurt easily. Down here on the bottom is a stink bug, a firefly, and a lacewing. You know, we don't have fireflies here, but there are other parts of the country where there are fireflies and they light up and fly around at night. They look like stars. These are the buds that formed on the plants that grew from the seedlings that sprouted with the rain, that wet the seeds, that fell on the soil, that made up the garden that Jack planted. And here are the buds. So each of these flowers has a little bud on it that's going to bloom. These are buttercups. Ooh, we have buttercups in my yard too. I used to have a bunny that liked to eat buttercups. This is dianthus. See the little buds on the top? They haven't quite opened yet. Foxglove, poppy. There's a little 7-spotted ladybird beetle coming to that poppy bud. Phlox here. Milkweed. And there's a ladybird, some ladybird beetle eggs on that leaf there. Now let's look at the different kinds of beetles. There is the willow leaf beetle, the ash gray ladybird beetle, the spotted ladybird beetle, the 9-spotted ladybird beetle. Oh my goodness, does that really have 9 spots? 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9. I can see 9 spots on there. The convergent ladybird beetle, the variable ladybird beetle, the 2-spotted ladybird beetle. I can only see 2 spots on that one. The twice-stabbed ladybird beetle. I wonder if they call it that because the spots are red, so it looks like it's been stabbed. Did you hear that truck just go down my alleyway? I bet you that truck is going home to his garden. Then we have a ladybird beetle larva up in the corner here. And I think that's all of them. These are the flowers that blossomed from the buds that formed on the plants that grew from the seedlings that sprouted with the rain, that wet the seeds, that fell on the soil, that made up the garden that Jack planted. And here are all those pretty flowers. We've got black-eyed, whoops, there goes the wind again. Black-eyed Susans, those pretty yellow ones there. We have aster flowers. There's bee balm. There's red clover. They're actually purple, but we call them red clover. These are called pinks. White clover here. There's the white clover flower. Fleabane. That's these here. I wonder if that helps keep the fleas away. Lupin. Lupin flowers are actually poisonous. Bluette. Spiderwort. That's pretty. There's a daisy in the corner there. These are coreopsis, these yellow ones here. Mullein. Ooh, I love mullein. It's such a big fuzzy plant. And people in this part of the country used to use it to help get rid of a cough. They would make tea with it. Stop barking, Freya. That's my dog in the background barking. And here's yarrow. Yarrow can be used to stop bleeding. If someone has a cut, it will help the bleeding to stop. And this is wild geranium. These are the insects that sipped nectar from the flowers, that blossomed from the buds, that formed on the plants, that grew from the seedlings, that sprouted with the rain, that wet the seeds, that fell on the soil, that made up the garden that Jack planted. I'm hoping that you're remembering some of these words and maybe saying them with me as we get to the end of the pages, because it always ends with that fell on the soil, that made up the garden that Jack planted. Maybe you'll remember that on the next page. So here is a little yellow butterfly up here in the corner called a sulfur butterfly. This is a metallic bee. I've been seeing bees out getting pollen from our pootsy willows in my garden. The bees help spread the pollen around so the flowers can grow. This is a green June beetle. This is a milkweed bug. A purple coneflower. That big, huge flower is a purple coneflower. Then we have an admiral butterfly, a swallowtail butterfly. Looks a little different than the admiral butterfly. Here's a blue butterfly. This is called a soldier beetle up there. And here's a bumblebee, a Sarah orange tip butterfly, a skipper butterfly. Man, there are a lot of different kinds of butterflies, aren't there? Down on the bottom here is a copper butterfly and a buckeye butterfly. This copper butterfly has that pretty copper color on its wings. It's kind of a pinkish orange. There's one more page here to turn. Good. Ooh. These are the birds that chased the insects, that sipped nectar from the flowers, that blossomed from the buds, that formed on the plants, that grew from the seedlings, that sprouted with the rain, that wet the seeds, that fell on the soil, that made up the garden that Jack planted. And look at all these birds. It shows the birds and their eggs. If you look carefully, you can see that each egg looks a little different, just like each bird looks a little different. So down here on the bottom is the robin egg. Those are just a real pretty little blue color. We've got a bluebird here, a barn swallow egg. This is called a goldfinch, little yellow bird. And here's the goldfinch egg. This is a catbird. Makes a call that sounds like a cat. Chickens, get out of the garden. I have to take a quick break because I have some birds that are trying to eat my garden. I'm going to get that chicken out of my garden. Out, chicken, out. The chicken will eat up all the sprouts and they won't grow. Go, chicken. It's supposed to be on the other side of the fence, but it got across. Go on, little chicken. Okay. You saw a little edge of my trampoline there, too. Hopefully it'll stay out of the garden for the rest of the story. Oh, look, I've got some daffodils growing in my garden. Okay, back to the birds. We've got a yellow warbler egg. Oh, look at the beautiful sunflowers that are growing in the garden. Here's a grapevine beetle. This is a mourning dove egg. And this big bird here is a barn swallow. Then we have a yellow warbler, a vireo egg, a bluebird egg, a brown thrasher egg right here. And there's a catbird egg. Oh, look, the catbird egg. Out of that catbird egg comes a catbird, this one over here. And this vireo down here comes out of the vireo egg up here. Oh, now you can start to see the raindrops that are falling down on the page of my book. I wonder how many pages we have left of this story. This is the last one. And this is the garden that Jack planted. Just in time finished as it starts to rain. I see a brown thrasher bird up top. A little tiny hummingbird getting nectar from that flower, from the hollyhocks. Here are some pretty morning glory flowers that go around the page. And that is the end of that story. Now I'll shut the book and chase these chickens out of my garden before it starts to rain really hard. I see some chickens in my garden right there. There's one. There's two of them. Oh, you silly birds.